Good evening, everyone. Call the District Board regular meeting of December 9th, 2024 to order. Please call the roll.
Murray.
Here.
Adel.
Here.
Anderson. Mr. Anderson, are you on the WebEx?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Thank you. Avedisian.
Here.
Lozano.
Here.
Yule.
Here.
Bush. Clark.
Here.
Desai.
Here.
DeBella.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Gale. Commissioner Gale, are you muted?
Here.
Gardeau.
Here.
Gentile.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Oheb.
Here.
Holloway.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Chance.
Here.
Lester.
Here.
Lewis. Magnan.
Here.
Mandyke.
Here.
Maniscalco. Payne.
Here.
Patel. Salemi.
Here.
Stuber.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Flores.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the mini minutes from November 6th and public hearing of November 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Changes, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion carried. At this time, I would like to introduce our soon-to-be consumer advocate, Elizabeth Travelli. And would you like to address the board at all?
No, I'm just here to listen tonight.
Okay, welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Is there anyone in the public that would like to address this board on agenda items only? Hearing none, seeing none, move on to reports from the district chairman. I have no reports. I would like to remind all board members that our holiday party is on December 16th at Casa Mia on the Green, 5 to 7. I hope you and your guests can attend. Next, report from Chief Executive Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have 3 items, I think, 4 items. Go real as quickly as we can. First, I'd like to have Rita Kelly come up and give a little presentation on the CHRO approval of our affirmative action plan for this past year, May 1st, 2023 to April 30th, 2024.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Rita Kelly. I'm the EEO officer here at the MDC. As Scott says, I'm very pleased to tell you that the district's affirmative action plan was approved and at their meeting on November 13th. Scott Jellison, Jamie Harlow, and myself attended the meeting virtually. Now, the Commission's approval was based on their determination that the district undertook every good faith effort to achieve its affirmative action objectives. The plan is submitted on an annual basis to CHRO, and it covers a year review period. The commission, in looking at the plan, does a determination to see what activities we've done to promote diversity within our workplace and ensure that our applicant interview, selection, and recruitment processes are fair, and that our workforce is moving towards being reflective of the demographics and the diversity within the greater Hartford labor market area. Now, in reviewing the plan, the commission looks at several areas, and I wanted to briefly go over these areas and talk about how the commission, what measures they used to evaluate us. They looked at our workforce development, they looked at recruitment and outreach, and they also looked at our interview and selection process with the idea that in selecting candidates for jobs within the MDC, the objective should be to hire the most qualified and to hire people based on valid job qualifications. Now, in terms of the highlights, in terms of activities that the commission saw that demonstrated to them that we were meeting the objectives of our affirmative action plan, I wanted to go over some of them really briefly. One area that the commission was very satisfied with was our recruitment outreach. As you know, the HR department does the recruitment. Over the last 2 years, we also have community outreach, which also assists HR in doing recruitment. And this year, during this reporting year, they were able to go to 13 job fairs, which is significant. And also they worked with several of the high schools in the greater Hartford area, including Hartford Public High and the technical schools. And in working with these high schools so they worked with CT Ready, which is a organization that prepares high school kids for employment. And in going to these job fairs and working with these high schools, not only did they, not only was their goal to find candidates for positions, but also their goal is to really promote careers in water. A lot of times, people do not understand the opportunities there are within the water industry, within wastewater and clean water. And of course, one of the ways to let people know about this is to actually go into the high schools and go into the job fairs and actually tell people and explain to them, the great opportunities that we have here. One of the concerns that the commission has with most organizations is workforce development. It's very important that a workforce does not stagnate. One of the problems in terms of the water industry is that a lot of our jobs require very advanced certifications, education, and also requirements such as CDLs. And one of the areas that the commission has looked closely at is what have we done as an organization to promote opportunity, knowing that, when we do go out there and recruit, there is a limit in terms of candidates that are available for certain positions. So one of the areas that they were very positive about that we have done, and a lot of the efforts were led by Jamie Harlow, is the creation of entry-level positions that lead to career opportunities within the district. And when we think about entry-level positions, we think about people coming into work here. One of the areas that we think about is actually, increasing diversity and, growing our own workforce and actually developing a workforce for the future. So jobs that would enable us to do this were used within the reporting period and created. And the ones I want to list off that we discussed with CHRO was the water pollution control operator in training, the entry-level engineer, the water treatment operator trainee, and also within this reporting period, we did use the professional level trainee and the professional level associate positions. So these are all ways that we can kind of, look out there and say, well, in the future, we really want to have a diverse workforce. We want to bring people in. We want new people here. So this is one way to build our workforce and develop our workforce. Another area that the commission was very positive about was the Tri-Trade and work-based learning initiatives that we've done within the department over the last year or so. Now, with that said, another area that they looked at us was in terms of our hiring activity. And I want to talk about our affirmative action, a little bit about our affirmative action goals and how we met them in terms of hiring. And one of the things I want to point out is that here in the state of Connecticut, we talk about affirmative action plans and we talk about affirmative action programs and goals. But what you have to remember that in Connecticut, affirmative action is not a plan of preference. When you talk about an affirmative action goal, it's not asking people to give or organization to give preference to a candidate because of their race or gender. What it's asking is that we do our recruitment in such a way that it really casts out a net, and that in building applicant pools, we build applicant pools that are diverse and reflect who we are as a state, who we are as the greater Hartford area. So the thought process is with aggressive recruitment and outreach, you get a diverse applicant pool. And by getting a diverse applicant pool, it increases your chances dramatically of getting a workforce that is reflective of who you are as a community and of who you are as the greater Hartford area. Now, in regards to, we were very successful in certain areas in our plan in terms of affirmative action, and maybe not so much in others, but I want to give you a background. In terms of professional positions, one of the areas that I really feel very positive about, and the commission did as well, was our achievements around professional level positions. Within this reporting period, there were 8 hires. Of that 8, 5 met hiring goals. 5 were females and 5 were candidates of color. So, you know, with that said, it goes to show that we are doing something right in terms of promoting diversity, in terms of ensuring that we have a fair process and ensure that we're giving people opportunity. Also, all of our promotional goals were met within the reporting period. So that is very positive, because if you look at our professional workforce, it does have a lot of diversity. It truly does, to the extent that in a lot of categories, we've met our goals for certain races and genders. However, one of the areas that we have had continued discussion about is the skilled craft area. One of the problems with skilled craft is that a lot of these are technical positions, and skilled craft positions require certifications in the CDL for a lot of them. And there is a limited pool of candidates out there, and the pool of candidates that we have been drawing in is not that diverse. So in terms of who we've hired over the last reporting period has been impacted by that. But with that said, we really have implemented strategies via, really good faith strategies to address this. And we've done some very positive things. And we did talk to the commission about that. And then going forward, I think that we're going to see a lot of progress. Also within this reporting period, we did see progress. And I'll talk about that too. By expanding recruitment, we were able to achieve affirmative action goals that in the past we have not been able to achieve within skilled craft. The biggest, in terms of looking at the hires that were made within this reporting period, the majority of the hires were within the utility maintainer job classification, which requires a CDL, which we did not get a lot of diversity in terms of an applicant pool. However, over the last 2 years, we've broadened the use of the facilities maintainer position. And using that facility maintainer position, we were able to meet some significant goals within skilled craft, which I feel is a good faith, really a good faith effort. And the commission was very, very pleased with that. So in using this facilities maintainer position, we were able to achieve goals in diversified. Also, in terms of creating opportunities so that we can diversify this area. The creation of entry-level positions such as water treatment operator trainee. We did the Tri-a-Trade program where we brought in high school students, and we did work-based learning with the idea that maybe we don't have that diversity within the applicant pools presently, but we could actually build a diverse applicant pool through these initiatives, and they have been quite successful. So within this reporting period, although we're not as successful as with professional, we are building traction in terms of attracting diverse people to this area. Also, in terms of this problem with the CDLs, in discussions with HR, we have to bear in mind too that we have employees here within the district who we have to look to in terms of making sure that there is consideration for upward mobility. So through tuition and reimbursement, at this point now, you could actually use tuition reimbursement to get a CDL license. So these are activities that we're doing to increase opportunity within skilled craft. Again, we were limited in terms of the availability of people of a diverse applicant pool. But even given that, the commission was very pleased that we have made traction because they do understand that this is an industry where there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, and there's only a finite number of people out there who qualify for these positions, and there's a lot of people competing for them. So I'm sure that as we go forward and as we continue to use try-trade and work-based learning, and we continue to use some of the career bridges that we have created, that we will see more success in this area, hopefully next year or the year after. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jamie, for all the hard work and her staff. Doing a great job. I think this is, how many years in a row now? Is this 13?
Oh my God, I lost about 13.
About
Yep.
13 years in a row, the MDC and our affirmative action plan has been approved. And on the meeting, we had state agencies that weren't getting their we won't say the names.
Right, we had some that were disapproved.
Yeah, disapproved or 6 months late.
And I think one of the things that really impressed the commission about us is because we do an affirmative action program where we do things, we actually do activities. They were so pleased in terms of, like we have a summer intern program that in terms of our summer intern program, we've actually over the last 2 years hired at least 3 people who were previous summer interns. We have the try-trade program, which we will draw. I mean, these are active programs that we're working on. We're actually looking at areas where we might have to work a little harder, but we are determined to do that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Rita. So next, Nick sent around an email. There was we had FSSB do a little pat MDC's self on the back with all the hard work we're doing in North Hartford for the integrated plan. And Nick sent an email around to the commissioners to remind them there was going to be a video this past Sunday. So we're just going to play it for you here if some of you haven't seen it. And again, Durham Street is the first project, and it was a year and a half ahead of schedule.
In parts of Hartford and the surrounding area have been dealing with stormwater drainage issues for years. Finally, enough was enough. Sharman Douglas has been a lifelong resident of Hartford, and she's been in her home on Durham Street for about 40 years. The first call she made for help about the flooding in her basement was to water company MDC.
Todd from MDC came in one day because I had called them, and we went over, we reviewed what was happening. And he said that, there's a lot of clay in this area, and water finds its way the fastest route. You can even see right here in the front yard, it's higher. That's how it was coming in. And so when I found that out, and I was like, well, what can I do?
After more community meetings, federal and state grant money was awarded to help fix the problem. MDC, in partnership with the EPA and DEEP, is setting out to remove stormwater from the sewer system at the property rather than collecting the overflows with the North Hartford Sewer Improvement Project. They believe this will become the model and national standard for other combined sewer overflows, which is where one pipe in the street carries both sewage and stormwater. Phase 1 of the integrated plan is underway, some of that work being done in front of Marcus A. Brown's barbershop.
When it rains heavily, a lot of the storm drains can't handle the little catch basins. They can't handle the rainwater, so it has nowhere to go. So it spills out into the street. So you see a lot of cars trying to go around the water and not go through them. So it's a plus that this is being done here in the neighborhood.
For Sharman Douglas, one of the residents who spoke up, seeing Phase 1 at work means seeing an improvement already in her basement.
It's been amazing.
Learn more about the benefits of the plan and the latest phase of the MDC's project at themdc.org.
Great. Thank you, Nick. So we're just trying to keep everybody informed and, take credit where credit's due. There's a lot of work has gone into achieving this goal a year and a half in advance, obviously by the board approving the new integrated plan, deep in the legislature providing the financings to do it, and a lot of hard work from the people behind you. So a lot of credit goes to MDC employees. I just want to mention that we will have our quarterly meeting for the integrated plan consent order update this coming Thursday night here. I would like to mention we are in working, it's on the agenda tonight, talk about the MS4 permit with the city, but we are also working diligently with the city of Hartford and with DEEP on the quote dredging of the North Branch of the Park River and the drainage study. And DEEP has given us, the city and the MDC, a 1-year extension on that report to be finalized. The challenge with that is the report is going to decide what and how we separate moving forward. So the work that we're doing up there now is those quick wins that we've been talking about. The other projects, which are much bigger, about 1,700 homes, that needs more design, more planning, and that's where the drainage study needs to be finalized for us and a decision made for us to move forward. So the DEEP is giving us a year, and we're going to be working with the city of Hartford and the board, BPW, and the full board to really have a heart-to-heart conversation about what do we do. I've said before, one of my biggest concerns is when we separate these areas, we need a place for our new stormwater to be dumped to and can freely flow out of the city. And we don't want that water backing up into the MDC's new separated storm system into the streets. So the way in which we could do that is we could connect to the existing infrastructure that the city maintains that leads to the river, or we could build our own outfall. If we build our own outfall to the river, it's going to cost all of our 8-member towns more money, $25, $30 million more. Meanwhile, doing nothing for the river doesn't help the city, doesn't help the residents. So we're going to try and work through this so that we can find a solution that kills two birds with one stone, addresses the river. We MDC need to make sure that we have a long-term commitment from the city and the board that we're going to do X to maintain that river forever. Because once we bring that outfall to that river that pipe's going to be there for 100 years, and it's going to need to flow 100 years. So we're working hard with James and his staff at the city, and hopefully we'll be bringing to BPW and the full board something that we can discuss at the next BPW meeting. I talked to Commissioner Hoffman about that, and we'll be doing that, probably in January is the next meeting, I think, in January. And so that's all good news. And I'll save the discussion about MS4 because it's on the agenda. And I was going to talk about budget, but I'll save that because it's on the agenda. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. At the finance agenda item.
Next on the agenda is report from District Counsel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, just a couple of updates on two major cases that we have within the legal department. The first is the deep landfill cases. The second lawsuit, which includes both the Buckingham Street garage and the tiered rate claim on the landfill, has been filed. The return date is December 3, was December 3. The state has 30 days to prepare a response. In the meantime, we're preparing a motion to consolidate those that case with the case that's already pending. The cases are very, very similar in terms of the fact pattern. There's a slight difference with the Buckingham garage in that there was this period of time where the state was actually paying the appropriate fee. And there's a slight difference between the two landfill cases just in terms of the amount that was being charged. But I'm optimistic that those cases will be consolidated. Right now, they'd be consolidated in the complex litigation docket with the courts. That's a accelerated process to get some relief for both parties, quite frankly, to get this thing moving. So we're optimistic with that motion will be successful. The second is the tunnel claim brought by KOJV, our tunnel contractor, against the MDC some time ago. We've been engaged in the discovery process. which, as you can imagine, with a project as complex as the tunnel, is quite extensive. We produced well over 1 million documents as part of that discovery. The other side has produced around 1 million documents to date. It's a rolling discovery, so as things progress, more documents are being disclosed. We've deposed their expert. We've deposed their estimator. They have deposed our experts. We are gearing up for the mediation, which you all know about, scheduled for December 16th and 17th, next Monday and Tuesday. We've been prepping for that extensively. We have a final prep session on Thursday morning. The mediation statement has been drafted, redrafted, and has been finalized and filed with the mediator. It's the same mediator that we had back in October of 2023. So he's familiar with the case generally. We don't have to start from scratch, and that's a good thing. And I'm optimistic that sometime after the 17th or 17th, I'll come back to you with a proposed settlement. Anything that we might tentatively agree to or recommend would be subject to this board's approval. So that'd be nice to get that off our plate. It's a very big, very important case. We have a good defense, and we're pursuing those defenses. That's it for the report, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the members might have.
Mr. Salemi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, just a quick question about the tunnel claim. At one point, I thought you had, if I'm wrong about this, please just correct me, but I think you said we were supposed to be prepared to go to trial in January. Is that, so we're not?
That's a good question. And we were, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. We were targeted for trial. We filed a motion for summary judgment, which is being heard in February. You don't have a trial and then have a motion for summary judgment. So that's been scheduled for February. There were extenuating circumstances in terms of discovery, not so much on our end. They meaning the other side, ran into a computer glitch on production. They asked for an extension. Trial ready date is set for June, the month of June of 2025. It's not January, but it's still at some point in 2025. I'm glad you brought that up, and I should have mentioned that. So, but for good reasons, it's been extended. And it also gave us the opportunity, quite frankly, to try again at trying to resolve the case. I mean, it's much better for any litigant to own the results rather than have the results imposed on you. Notwithstanding how strong I think our case is, it's still better. It's better to, provided it's a reasonable number, to buy the insurance up front rather than be exposed to what could be with interest over $100 million claim. So, but thank you for bringing that up. And if that changes, I'll try to remember next time to make sure that you know about it. But that was the original date was January, and that's been moved to June.
Thank you, Mr.
A long answer to, I could have just said you're right.
Any other questions by board members? We'll move on to item 9 on the agenda, Bureau of Public Works. And as we move through the rest of the agenda, because the issues under each of our respective committees are quite different from each other, I would ask that we deal with them separately. So first up is 9A, abandonment of sewer mains, 55 Elm Street and 100 Capitol Avenue in Hartford. Chair recognizes Chairman Hoffman for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was discussed at the recent Public Works Committee meeting and passed unanimously.
And motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion passes. Next is the 2025 district sewer user charge rates and other sewer charges. Chair recognizes Chairman Hoffman for a motion.
Yes, thank you. As the previous item was mentioned, this was a discussion, brief discussion, and the item was moved forward unanimously.
And would you like to make a motion, Chairman Hoffman?
Certainly. Move the item, please.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Move on to 10, Water Bureau. 10A, Customer Assistance Grants administered by Operation Fuel. Chair recognizes Chairman Adel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was discussed on a few occasions at the Water Bureau. Questions were asked, good questions about how they'd be administered, and I think they were all satisfactorily answered, and so it was passed with unanimous consent, and I would move that we move forward with this item.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Next, 10B, 2025 district water rates. Chair recognizes Chairman Adel.
Also passed with unanimous votes on the committee and move the item forward.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. And 10C, 2025 water assessment rates and miscellaneous water charges. Chair recognizes Chairman Adel.
Also, good discussion, moved with unanimous votes and move that we move forward with this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, number 11 on the agenda, Board of Finance. We have a whole lot. 11A, 2025 capital improvement budgeting and funding. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Chairman, at the November 25th meeting of the Board of Finance, this item A was passed unanimously.
And would you like to make a motion, Chairman
I
Salemi?
certainly do it. Certainly would. Move that the item be approved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, John Gale.
Yes, Commissioner Gale.
I'm not sure I'm commenting on the right measure, so let me just confirm. Is this the resolution appropriating $192 million for capital improvement?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So I was not at the Board of Finance, and I went through and looked at all the various projects, and I don't have any particular issues with any particular projects. But I did take a look at our budget, and $192 million struck me as a lot of money. This coming from a guy who sits on the Hartford City Council, where a whole city council almost got tarred and feathered for appropriating $56 million for a stadium. So I took the opportunity to then go and look at our budget, and I see that in our budget, our capital improvements are costing us about $32 million in next year's budget for interest. So I'm not proposing any particular action tonight, but I am suggesting that $32 million in interest is a lot of money. And I don't know to what extent, as I looked at some of these capital improvement budgets, it looked like some of these things were for operational money. Some of them looked like they were for construction management money. Some of them looked like things that potentially could be built into a budget and not capitalized. And I recognize that means there might be, a switch from one budget to another, but I'm just suggesting that over time, we should take a look and see if we're really spending our money the best way possible. Just to give you a little bit of background with respect to the city of Hartford, since that stadium bond crisis, I'll call it, that occurred now 9 years ago, the city of Hartford has bonded no new money. Now, that's not necessarily a great model. The city's had some deferred maintenance issues, and they probably do need to do some bonding at some point. But what the city has done is they've gone on a pay-as-you-go basis for things that previously were included in the capital improvement budget. So I just throw that out there as something food for thought. Again, I'm not opposing this motion, but I did want to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gale. I would only say before I recognize Chairman Salemi that your concerns are warranted. But one, I have trust in the Finance Committee that they do their due diligence as well as our bonding people, and that, but it's always something that looks at. But Chairman Salemi.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would only comment that, we continue to pursue not just the Board of Finance, but the District Board and the entire Metropolitan District Commission continues to pursue projects and the reconstruction of a 100-year-old system that, most everybody that looked at it, 20, 25 years ago said that, we should have done something with it 25 years before. So, and I certainly understand the concern about in any annual capital improvement budget being as large as the one that we have. But we're really moving forward on our plans to do what we were asked to do and what we consented to do. And we also, in the future, are going to be moving forward on, bigger capital improvements to the water side as well. So I think that the future, Commissioner Gale, I think the future is, going to be similar, for a while anyway. But if you wanted more information about that, I think certainly staff would be more, would be more able to articulate why this year's budget was this high. But I'm speaking just generally why the budgets for capital improvements have been growing each year anyway. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I would also add that while that number may appear high, Commissioner Gale, it's spread out over a decade, and the interest rates that MDC receives through various sources is a very friendly interest rate compared to what others are receiving. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not as bad as it may just seem on the surface. So, but it's continually looked at, and I appreciate your bringing it to our attention. Scott, do you have anything?
I'd just like to say, Commissioner, we will not be building any stadiums here at the MDC. However, everything you just said, we've been talking about, you got to take this in context, right? We've been talking about the integrated plan. We've been talking about as Commissioner Salemi mentioned, 10 miles a year of water main every year. You've got one or the other. You either spend money on operational expending money on fixing breaks and overtime and all those good things, or you invest money in infrastructure and in replacing equipment. And everything that you said, it's a lot of money, but the real story should be, but the MDC hasn't raised its water rate in 4 years. How did we do that? How is that happening? That should be the question we should talk about, because that's a lot of discussion. The MDC, through a lot of hard work, has not raised the rate. Our rate is 6 cents lower than it was in 2020 on the water rate. And we're spending, in the budget this year, correct me if I'm right, Mike, $5 million for additional debt service on water, but only $500,000 on sewer. Why? Because we're shifting, our integrated plan is shifting the capital improvement to the sewer system to the integrated plan. And even with that integrated plan, clean water surcharge, we are right on schedule, below, 10 cents below what we're predicted. So we are, there's an article in the paper this week about a utility having to increase the rates because they need to modernize their smart meters. We started smart meters in 2006. So we are so far ahead. We are a example in the industry about how do you spend $200 million a year in construction and you keeping your water rates the same. But it takes a lot of hard work.
Thank you, Scott. Any other discussion on 11A?
Well, if I may,
I think that, as I see the question, though, the issue that was raised by Commissioner Gale, it's not so much the issue of the necessity to spend money to do these things, but whether or not within that budget, there are items that should be administrative or that are administrative and not strictly structural that should be financed in another way as opposed to bonded.
If you pay go, Commissioner, you're going to add directly. So as we say this year, what is a percentage for Avalorum for 500 grand? Roughly? About, right? About 1% is 500 grand. So if you take a construction project that's $20 million and you want to pay go the construction management fees, usually construction management fees are about 10% of the project. So 10% of 20 million, 2 million. So you want to add $2 million for one project as pay-go to Avalorum. I mean, it's crazy. You can't afford it. I mean, we had this conversation in 2006 with the board about, do you want clean water projects to be pay-go? And the answer was no, right? The answer was you want to capitalize it. So that's what we're doing. And we're getting almost 50% grant on the majority of our projects. So including, you know, the construction activity or the administrative parts, the design, and all those things. But the board couldn't afford pay-go. You couldn't afford it. I mean, you can afford to do nothing, but if you do nothing, you're going to spend lots and lots of overtime money fixing broken pipes and sewer pipes.
Let me just say, yeah, and I think that's what we need to hear, you know, why we do what we do.
Right.
So, because it would seem that, you know, you would want to not include those kinds of administrative costs to the capital improvement project itself. But if it makes financial sense to do that, then that's a perfectly good reason to do it.
And we presented at BPW and Water Bureau years ago. We did a model and we said, let's look at $40 million. So $40 million a year, if we spend $40 million a year, we did a study that said we'll save about, that cost about $2.5 million to your capital, your mortgage payment, right? On the 40 million. And if you do nothing, you do zero, you spend zero, you spend just about the same amount on the maintenance side. So the question is, and that's why we developed the integrated plan. That's why the integrated plan identified a $40 million minimum. Now, you know, ramped up to, you know, 60 based on escalation. But yes, we absolutely did do that study, and we can do that. We can do that presentation again. If you spend $40 million a year, you're going to spend $2.5 million in bonds, right? A year. If you spend zero, you're going to spend the same amount on maintenance. So the question is, if you kick the can down the road with maintenance, you still got to spend the 40 million, but this 40 million becomes the clean water project in 1990 when we wanted to do a clean water project, and everyone said, no, don't do it, it's too expensive. And the $300 million project became a $4 billion project. So we don't have the luxury of not building a stadium. We have to fix the pipe. It's one or the other. You either maintain it and you either replace it and fix it. When I first got here, Zion Street, we had 12 sewer main collapses in the pipe. And we just kept fixing it because we didn't have the capital. We didn't have the project money approved by the board to actually fix the whole street. That's what we used to do in the 90s. We would patch things and we got really good at repairing stuff. But 20 years later, we got a $4 billion problem. So kicking the can down the road with infrastructure doesn't help. It's just, you're delaying the inevitable and you're just causing, you're going to pay for the maintenance on the Avalorum side, and then you're going to pay for the capital at some later date.
Mr. Gale?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Scott. I did not necessarily intend to create a need for a strong defense, but
it's fine. It's fine. I like it. It's okay.
Just you know, and appreciate, as Commissioner Torres said, you know, we appreciate that the district at all times does that balancing act and has it in mind, you know, why we're spending the money and what we're saving. But again, I just think all commissioners need to have it in mind every year, as the staff needs to have it in mind every year as we go along. It's $32 million of interest. That's not paying anybody's salary. It's not buying a product. It's not doing anything. It's $32 million in interest. It's a lot of money, and hopefully over time, as we get some of these larger projects under control, maybe we'll find some ways to reduce that expenditure. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on 11A? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion passes. 11B, 2025 budget expenditures. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the November 25th meeting of the Board of Finance, budget expenditures as presented were approved unanimously. And I would ask that we move this for approval this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, can you, the debt service of 87 million, what was that last year? Do you have any idea?
On water? Is it total? That's
The
total?
item on the budget.
I know it's $5.5 million lower, right? Because we added 5.5.
So based on your explanation a minute ago, I understand what you're saying, but we can't continue to borrow $40 million every year, pay $2.5 million of interest. At some point that has to stop. And again, the 87 million, you said was 82 last year. Next year will be.
I'm guessing, I was looking at, I'm guessing, is that right, Bob? Mike?
Yeah, that went up 5.2 million.
5.2, I'm sorry. It wasn't 500 for alarm, it was 200,000.
My point is, again, I understand the explanation, but you can't do that forever.
Well, you can because remember the integrated plan, remember this. We were planning on the long-term control plan, not the integrated plan. The long-term control plan, they told us we had to spend an average of $90 million a year on a 5-year average. We averaged 118 million since 2008. So that's for the clean water project. But we weren't doing anything on the general sewer side. I mean, we were, but we were also spending 40 some odd million on the sewer side. So you're spending 90 million for the clean water project and 40 million on Avalorum. And then as you see, and we presented this in all of the integrated planning, we shifted the capital improvements to integrated planning projects. And that's why debt service on the Avalorum side is only 200,000 this year. And that's exactly what we predicted. We showed in the integrated planning process that you're going to actually spend less on Avalorum and more in the integrated plan. But we're not going to spend 90 million, 818 million average over a 5-year period on the integrated plan. We're going to spend less than that. We're going to spend 40, 50, 60 million over a longer period of time. The long-term control plan planned on us spending all of that money up into a date certain, 2056. Boom, you're officially done. You build the tunnels and you're done. So you're done with the consent decree, consent order. But we've negated the ability to invest money in the regular infrastructure in the ground. So that was going to be just as much. But now we've shifted. You're actually saving money. You're actually saving money. And then every 20 years, you're paying off debt service, right? So as you pay off debt service, you're doing more projects. But the answer, Commissioner, is you can't afford not to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. The answer is you've got a 100-year-old system, and in some cases older on the water side, 120-year-old system. You've got to fix it. And you've got a mandate to fix it, never mind, right? But what we do is we make sure we do a cash flow analysis. We want to know how much money do we actually have on a monthly basis? 50 million bucks, plus or minus. We want to make sure that our bills don't exceed what we have in cash. Because as you know, our budget process is we use one checkbook. All the money goes into one account and we write checks and we write to ledgers and we identify where the money's going and who owes us money back, right? So, but we have to make sure that we've got the financial resources, and we have to make sure that we have the human resources to actually get the work done. So that's the number that we give you, the 196. we go through an exhaustive effort with engineering and finance to make sure that we're not over asking. We want to make sure that we can achieve. If you remember in 2019, we had to come to you with a report that we had $37 million of unspent bond funds. And that meant we borrowed, money, we got authorization to spend, but we didn't spend the money. We did, but the report was very concerning. And so we do a full exercise to make sure that not only do we have the money, the bonding capacity, we'd like to bond once every year, about 80 some odd $1 million. That works for us. So there's a process that we go through, and going to the integrated plan, we just simply are doing the same thing that we were doing, but over forever. It's not 2050. It's not 2056 anymore. It's forever. We're going to do the integrated plan forever. It's going to take us longer, but the product will be better because we'll have actual new pipes in the streets of our towns rather than big tunnels that really don't do anything. But yeah, you have no choice. We have to keep going. We have, obviously, you have a bond cap on the ad valorem side. We don't have it on the water side because you have a revenue stream. Same thing on the clean water project, the integrated plan. So we're shifting away from how we used to do things, and we're utilizing the integrated plan. And now, in most cases, we're getting, like the stuff we did in North Hartford, we're getting 50% grant for stuff that if we did that in ad valorem, we wouldn't get anything. So we are considering all of that. And we're happy to give that presentation to BPW again.
Any other questions on 11B, 2025 budget expenditures? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. Next is the 2025 budget revenues. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the November 25th meeting of the Board of Finance, budget revenue as presented by the staff was accepted and approved unanimously, and I move that we for approval here this evening.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is 2025 hydroelectric expenditures and revenue. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. On the Board of Finance Committee, Board of Finance meeting on November 25th, the hydroelectric expenditures and revenues was passed unanimously, and we move passage this evening.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. Next, 2025 ad valorem tax on member municipalities. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. On November 25th, the Board of Finance meeting, the ad valorem tax on member municipalities was presented to the Board of Finance, and it was accepted and approved unanimously, and moved for approval this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. And last, 2025 referendum threshold. Chair recognizes Chairman Salemi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On November 25th, the Board of Finance meeting, the referendum threshold was approved unanimously, and we move for approval this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
One question, Mr. Chair, John Gale.
Yes, Commissioner Gale.
As a result of that, will any of the capital improvement budget matters be going to referendum?
No.
They're all under that. They're all under that threshold.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Is no the correct
Yeah, no,
answer?
no.
Then that's the answer.
The answer, no.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Chairman Salemi, and thank you to the Board of Finance. Next, number 12, Committee on MDC Government Consideration, Potential Action, Revisions of Ordinances. First 12A, Water Supply Ordinances. Chair recognizes Chairman Bazzano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was discussed at the December 4th Government Committee and unanimously passed, and I move for adoption.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Next, sewer ordinances. Chair recognizes Chairman Bazzano.
Mr. Chairman, this item also was discussed at the December 4th Government Committee and was passed unanimously, and again, I move for adoption.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. And next, general ordinances.
Mr.
Chair
Chairman,
recognizes Chairman Bazzano.
thank you. This item was also heard at the December 4th Government Committee and was passed unanimously, and again, move for adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Chairman Bazzano. Next, number 13, Committee on Organization, Consideration, Potential Action, Reappointment of Acting Treasurer. Chair recognizes Chairman Buell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met this evening and unanimously approved the resolution designating Kelly Shane as the acting district treasurer for the MDC effective today. And we moved for the board's approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Next is number 14, consideration potential action, approval of first material modification of the 2006 EPA consent decree, possible executive session. And Chair recognizes District Counsel Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I received a phone call from EPA Region 1 in Boston last week. They've asked that we postpone action on this item until the Department of Justice attorneys have an opportunity to sign off on the modification. I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's really a procedural issue for the federal government. So they're going to sign off first, and then we can consider it. And I would ask that that be passed and placed on the January 13th, 2025 agenda.
Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to number 15, discussion and referral to the Bureau of Public Works Memorandum of Understanding, Department, City of Hartford regarding the MS4 general permit. Chair entertains the motion? No, it's just a referral, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Still need a motion, though.
Nope.
Or motion to refer?
Motion to refer.
There a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is number 16, consideration potential action, settlement of pending litigation, Owens versus DaCosta, possible executive session.
There's no need, if I may, Mr. Chairman, Chris Stone, District Counsel, there's no need for executive session unless we get into some specifics about the medical issues for the claimant or strategy going forward if it doesn't resolve itself. So this is a matter in which we had an MDC employee who was involved in a motor vehicle accident. There was a third party liable, not the MDC, but a third party liable for his injuries. He has a right under the statute to bring a direct action against that party that is that he considers to be responsible. Obviously, he couldn't sue the MDC. That's what workers' comp is for, but he could sue that third party, and he in fact did. As part of that litigation, we received notice of the lawsuit. We have a right to file an intervenor complaint, which would entitle us to recover all or part of whatever we paid out for indemnity and medical. We filed that complaint. The case progressed. It got to a point of a proposed a settlement after some rather aggressive involvement of the judge who heard the case, mediated the case in effect. And what you see here is that the reason it's here is because we're asking you to compromise the claim, not because just to settle the case, but there's an issue as to whether, this is his second injury, and there's an issue as to whether the permanency rating that was assigned to him in 2000, I want to say 6, John, was it 2006? Whether that injury was aggravated or did it progress to a higher permanency rating, which would lead to the higher number here. So that being said, rather than, and he could probably get a doctor to say that it's an additional percentage of permanency. That being said, because the case was ready to go to trial, and because of a lot of pressure from the court to compromise on all sides, and in order for our employee to receive some money from this litigation, because quite frankly, if we went with a higher number, he wouldn't receive, he'd receive hardly anything after paying his lawyers and then paying us. So this number represents a compromise. It's basically the Solomon approach. There was a claim, you cut it in half, so we're getting half more than what we had paid out in this claim. He's receiving half less than what he, between what he had received in 2006 and what he's receiving now, and we're recommending that you settle the case.
For discussion purposes, Chair will entertain a motion. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Chairman Talon?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Does this settlement close out the infamous tail on these claims or not?
Well, if we were to settle, if I might, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Chris Stone, if we were to settle close out his workers' comp claim, which is separate and distinct from the civil action, we would look to close out, in many cases, you close out the indemnity, leave the medical open. But we try to settle both the indemnity, which is the payment of weekly compensation, the salary, as well as the indemnity. Here, there's no such opportunity. There may come a time, Commissioner, that's a great point. There may come a time in the future that the claimant may retire, which is a good opportunity for us to resolve these cases finally with a full settlement on the workers' comp side. But that doesn't present itself in this civil litigation. This is really our opportunity to get back from the responsible party part or all of what we paid out on the indemnity and the medical on the total.
Any other questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Moves us down to 17, opportunity for general public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board? Seeing none, move on to commissioner requests for future agenda items. Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. You got to move faster.
I'm sorry. I just take this opportunity right now, Kelly Shane, Chief Administrative Officer. I wanted to recognize the budget team for all their hard work on the budget. Mike Moore, our controller, started this fall and hit the ground running and has been managing the budget team since then and worked diligently and tirelessly with the team. I'm sorry, Sharice Rogers has been here on the budget team for over 9 years, almost 10, I think, right? Almost 10 years. She has 2 master's degrees, one in data analytics, and she's been, she knows this budget inside and out and was recently promoted to assistant manager of budget. So we're thrilled to have her and her staff, the financial analysts, both JP Avenoso and Kim Cummins. Kim came from East Hartford, the town of East Hartford, where she was an associate finance director last year. And JP, this is his second budget season. JP started with us as a professional level trainee in finance, and over the the last 5 years has become a professional financial analyst. So this team, I'm very proud of, and we're very proud of their work with all the departments in making sure that our forecasting and our budget is on time and delivered efficiently. So I just wanted to recognize them before we ended the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Commissioner requests for future agenda items. Commissioner Salemi.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief. It's just a sort of a wish list thing, item for me, but item 11D that we dealt with this evening was hydroelectric expenditures and revenues, and I've brought this up before, and I know that we abandoned our hydroelectric project at the Colebrook Dam, and I think there were some good reasons for us to get out of it, and we still haven't settled it yet with the Army Corps, but hopefully we're on our way to settling that. But I think there are many other opportunities with a lot of the other facilities we have throughout the district to look at hydroelectric. And I know that DEP, and I think we should really find some way to contact DEP regarding hydroelectric, because my understanding is that they're prepared to support even the smallest of hydroelectric projects as an alternative energy source and a way of using so much of the hydro power potential that we have here in Connecticut. So I just hope that at some point during this year we can get that back on the agenda and perhaps have one of our consultants take a look at possibilities for it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And but just so you know, there was an individual from your district within your district party that came to me wanting to do the very same thing. So it must be in that side of town. So.
Well, and part of the reason for this is, my longevity here with the district was at a time when I was chairman of the Water Bureau. Hydro was bringing in significant revenues, and we're not going to have any at some point. We're down to just the Goodman Dam one, but we'd really like to see possibility for more revenue for something that's basically free, except for the capital expense in the beginning. Thank you.
Any other requests for future agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, before I adjourn the meeting, I too would like to thank the staff for the due diligence and the hard work put in for the budget, but I'd also like to thank everyone around this table. Year in and year out, you would think it would be repetitious and the questions would be the same, but they're not. And the questions generally lead to second questions and third questions that are responded to and answered by staff, which in turn makes us. Could I just have one meeting, please? Thank you. So I would like to thank everyone around this table, all the commissioners, for their due diligence and their hard work as well. So thank you. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.